let's get started with today's lecture. Now, what we're going to look at today, for that I need some files and I'm downloading them. You still need like 2 or 3 minutes. So while it's getting downloaded, let us have a quick look at the things that we'll be covering today. I'm not really sure if I can cover them all in today's class, but it would be a start list. So one thing that I want you to see is that sometimes you'll get some already recorded footages, like the one over here, alright? It's the raw footage, and what this guy is trying to do is to remove everything from here, the background and everything over here, and then set it up in such a way that this guy is hanging on a ledge of a building and he will fall off. When in reality it's shot in an indoor setting, and this is not a building at all, right? And he will be doing a free fall. So I'll go forward to show you what the end product may look like. So if you saw the original footage and now if you see the edited one, there is a drastic change in there, and it's a fun thing to do, right? So that's the idea, that you'd have some raw footage, okay, which we're going to edit to do something about it. Like it can be about removing the background and introducing new objects, and sometimes we may want to track something and then introduce new foreign objects in there. Okay. Let me try finding another quite cute example. Blender Guru, back on the road maybe, or yeah. Sinkhole in Korea. So this is a recorded footage of a road, and you can see that there is a sinkhole right in here. Okay. Does it look real to you? Well, in reality, it is totally fake. Okay, there was no such hole, nothing whatsoever on this road. It was all done in computer graphics, and he has a tutorial on how he did that. This is the original footage. As you can see, that's the road. Okay, that's the real video, still from the video rather, and there are some markers left on the road. See, these are the markers. We can track the movement of the markers to know how the camera is moving, and then edit the footage to introduce some foreign elements like the hole right in there. Okay. So this thing where you track the movement of the camera, this is called camera tracking, and we may also track the movement of an object or character, whatever it is. That's called motion tracking. These are two different things. One is camera tracking, where you try to understand how the camera moved when you recorded the footage. That's important. And you also need to track how the object moves so that you can add some new elements to that. So here's another nice example where you're actually going to track the object. Okay. Let me move a little bit forward to show you what this really is. So you see this person, and we have some appendages over here. These are like some balls attached to some sticks, and he's wearing them on the hand for one real purpose, that we are going to track the movement of the arm right here. We want to know in which frame the arm is in what location, how it's rotating, how it's scaling up, and all these things. So we want to crack the transformation so that finally we can replace those sticks and balls with something else, like a very cool weapon. So let me see if I can find the actual output. Should be somewhere. Maybe. Well, that's the concept, that you'd have a weapon like that on the arm, but let's see where the actual video is. And maybe not in this one, maybe in the second one, yeah. So it's multi-part video. So we have a 3D weapon over here, and we're going to attach that to that already recorded footage. So this is not real, right? And if you have seen the Avengers movies, like if you have seen Iron Man, the Iron Man suit, that's not real. That's computer generated. So you can introduce foreign 3D elements into your already recorded footage to come up with something like this. Okay. So you can see that we are rendering a still frame right now, but this can't really be an animation, and they actually have created an animation out of it where it looks sort of realistic, that you have a foreign weapon in your hand and you're shooting with that. Okay, so that's very much possible. See, right here. Okay. So this part involves motion tracking, because you're tracking the motion of the arm, and in the previous example of the sinkhole, we're actually tracking the movement of the camera, because the street is not moving, it's only the camera that's moving, that's recording the street. So in most cases, in real footages, you'd have to take care of both, and this is where I need to waste a bit of time to play an entire video, because this is going to serve as a motivation as well, and it's a very nice little example. What I can do though, I can speed it up probably. So here you can see that we have an already recorded footage, and we are tracking some parts over here, some corner points of the pillars, some dirt on the floor. We are tracking all of that, and what we'll try to do is to bring a robot into the scene. So this is a very nice example of camera tracking, because you're walking with the camera, you have recorded the footage, and you want to introduce something new here that should look real, which is part of the scene. this is section 1, right? April 16th. So we're going to look into that, and also while we're at it, you can look at this very nice little example as well. Let me just show you the final output. Okay. So if you look at the raw footage, the robot is not there. So record this footage, and we're doing that same thing right in here. So we sort of tried to do some of those things in class in previous semesters as well. Let me show you, I think I still have that footage. Yeah, this was done by 3 students, Omlan, Fahad and Joel. They tried that. Okay, so they're trying to track the movement of the hand and then attach Wolverine claws in there. It wasn't really a very good work. You see that they're not rendered right, and sometimes we're losing the track, but they got the idea in there. Okay, and also something I was showing in class, that's again even worse, but you'd see what this is. That the same person, he was a lecturer of Tripoli, and he's not with us anymore. But we had a record footage of him, and he's wearing Loki's helmet as he's walking. Alright. But if you look at the raw footage, let me see if I have that. Yeah. So if you look at the raw footage, there was no helmet in here, and also the part that you saw earlier. See, there's no Wolverine claws attached to his hands either. So these are the things we can attach, definitely, and in today's class and maybe the next one, we will see some of these things. Okay. Now, in order to work with any of these things, you definitely need some raw footage to start with, right? And that's something you can do by yourself. You can capture footage with your camera or your phone, perhaps. What happens at that time, like the reason why we couldn't do really good job with these footages is that they lack quality. They were low resolution, they couldn't track the movements right, it was a little bit blurry, and all those things are quite a bit of a problem when you start using them. So what I figured is that you should really be using some professional materials that other people have shot, and they've uploaded those for people like us who are trying to learn animation and video editing of some sort. Okay. Blender actually is a very good video editing tool. You can do a lot with Blender, not just create 3D models. Okay. So this site, Hollywood Camera Work, they have uploaded quite a few green screen plates. If if you go to their site, in the download section, you'll find some green screen plates, some tracking plates. Let me get a tracking plate as well. Okay. So if you look at some of these, and I have downloaded this already. See, this is a very good set of frames where you have a person standing right in here, and that guard is not moving. So that has taken one of the problems out of the equation, that we don't have to track the motion. What we're essentially tracking is the movement of the camera. Okay. So how do we track the camera so that we can remove this green background? That's one thing. Okay. And we will insert some 3D background, perhaps, maybe some 3D objects in the room as well. Okay. They may be animating, they may be lying still somewhere, but it should look a realistic thing. And I think other people have tried using this footage, so let me check. I've seen this before, that's why I want to try it out again. Okay, so this is the original footage as we have seen before, right, the green screen one. Why is it so slow today? So 480p shouldn't be a problem. Do we have any preview? Let me wait on it so that it first and please. Okay. So this is not really a good piece of work, but you can already see that it's in the place that the green background that we had has been removed. We have a blue background with a new floor. There was no floor in here. We have that in this particular recorded footage. It doesn't look realistic at all, right? It looks like the girl is sliding on the floor. So this is not a good piece of work. So we look at different stages of editing this thing. One of these things is obviously how you can remove the background from the raw footage. Now you can insert a plain image as a background, which is not going to be enough for this particular thing, but it may be enough for a still picture. So that's one thing, and then we will see how we can track the movement of the camera so that we can introduce something new, like a moving 3D background along with the picture. So, so like I said, I mean, there are quite a few things over here. One is camera tracking, the other thing is motion tracking, and finally, how you can remove the green screen, right? So all these three things combined, we can edit a recorded footage to come up with something that's quite interesting to see. While we are at it, let me try to download maybe one or two of these if I can. Okay, so it's in the process, it's downloading. So in Hollywood Camera Work, if you go to their site, you'd see that there are some green screen plates, and there are also some tracking plates. Okay. What you do with the tracking plates is quite interesting. If you just look at this example right in here, here we got a laptop, and অসুবিধা নেই, আমি জেমিটা সার্ভিসে রোলিং কি স্যার? হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ আর ওই জয়েনগুলো ব্যাপারটা একটু দেখো, ওর ভিডিওটা অ্যাকাউন্ট খুলতে গেছে, ওটা 3.94 ওরা যে লিখছে সিস্টেমে 3.15 দেখাচ্ছে, কিন্তু রিসার্চ কোর্সটা তো রিসার্চটা নেওয়া যায়, সে এটা তো সে পরের সেমিস্টারে শেষ করবে, এটা ডেট এখন ধরো মনে নেই। অ্যাকাউন্ট কার্ড দিয়ে এক্সাম্পল জিপি রেজিস্টার করতে তাড়াতাড়ি, মানে ভুলটা বললে তারা বুঝবে। Okay, sorry about that. So what I wanted to show you right here in this small footage that we got, that you have a green background on a laptop, and that's easy to set, right? You can set a very solid green color on a laptop and you can record a footage. So the camera is moving, the laptop is not moving there. And what we can do is quite fun, that you can play whatever movie you want on that laptop. Let's say you got a movie on your computer and you want your laptop, the recorded footage, to show that you're actually playing that movie on that laptop. It's easy to set. You can remove that screen, the green part, and put that movie right in there and start playing that as if that movie is running on that laptop. And maybe it's a recorded footage of a person watching something on there, and you can insert that thing right in there. Or you can also make some cool effects that something is coming out of that laptop as a real thing, as a 3D object. You can also make that happen. So all this video editing for 3D effects can be done with Blender quite easily, but it involves quite a few things, and we need to see how to deal with each of these things. Now, one thing you need to see is that when you download these tracking plates or the green screen plates from Hollywood Camera Works, what you're going to get is not actually a movie, you're going to get a set of images. Okay, so let me show you one of these. I will extract it somewhere here in my downloads, like with everything else. And right in here I got, it doesn't show me any status, so 215 files. Okay, and this is actually a movie, but not given in any movie format. They're all in PNG format. So if you run through them, you see that this is indeed a movie, right? I'm going through each and every frame one after another. Okay. And when I was showing you how to record an animation in Blender, I showed you this, that Blender can actually render out separate frames instead of a single movie. You can do both in Blender. So this is very nice, that if you can have still images like this, that's easy to handle. And also you'd see that this is shot in HD. There is no blurring effect at all. So this is a very nice set of footages to work with, set of frames rather. Okay. So what I want you to show, what I want to show over here is how you can take that footage and then render it out and make some changes in there. And in order to do that, what we'd be doing is we'd be using quite a few things. First of all, let us go into the node editor. So let me try it over here, that we can bring up the node editor, and as soon as you do that, if you click on use nodes, you'd see some nodes in here, and let me zoom it up. it shows you how this material is defined for this object. So if you look at the cube, you see that there is no material defined, right? But we're going to use this node to create this material. And we can create new material which has diffuse and specular. We can modify the color right in here, and also affects the final outcome over here. So the idea of node editor is that you have a bunch of nodes linked one after another, and the output of one node will go as input of another node, and it will create the final effect. Okay. So right in here, just to set up the idea, I mean, this is still not about the diagram that I just downloaded, the movie that I downloaded. We will get there, but this, you need to understand how the node editor works before we move on with that, because I haven't talked about it before. So here you see that we're actually defining a material which is a bluish color, and this is the final output. Okay, that's why the cube looks like that. Now, if I duplicate this, okay, and create a different material, maybe with a different color, I can just click over here and give it a different color, right? Well, it's a bad duplication. Let me show a better example. So this is the material that we are producing. Let me come up with some colors. See, if you look at this node, it's right in here, it has an input for color, right? So I'm going to hit Shift A for adding, and let us search for RGB. So what is this? It allows me to pick a color, right? Let me pick a color from here. What I can do now is I can take the output of this color and put it as input over here. Do you see it change? From the purple tint, it changed to this blue shade. Okay, if I duplicate this and create another color, say this yellowish tint, the output doesn't change over here because it's not using that, right? It's using the bluish color. But I can take this one and set it as output. Now that changes. Or I could also insert a mix RGB node, where I can take the output of this node and the output of this node. These are two different colors, right? And I can put this mix node in the middle and take the output and put it over here. So this is actually taking the input from both these colors and taking 50% of the first one, 50% of the second one to produce the final output. This is the output, okay? So it doesn't look like that, but if you set it to render, it will get updated that way. And there should be some option, though not yet. So that's one way to do that, right? How you change the material. Now you can also play with the factor. If I take it to the left side, it means that it will take more of the first part, like 91%, well actually about 20% of the first one, no, 20% of the second one, and 80% of the first one, okay, because it's more towards the left, and that's why this object looks bluish. If I slide it over here, you see the color changes, okay. So this is a very nice intuitive way of designing materials for us, that we can combine a lot of nodes together by mixing and matching and then producing the final material over here. We didn't do that because we didn't need that before. Okay. But now when we are working with green screens, that we try to remove a green screen and introduce some new foreign things, we will need these concepts. We will need to work with these node editors. Okay. So the example that we have in hand. Okay, we need to remove this green screen, and for that we have to use the node editor. Is that thing clear? Okay. All right. So it's not just about the materials. We can see that yes, we can edit the materials and it's getting rendered. There are actually other tabs. You can go into compositing and click on use nodes. That shows you how the actual render will look like. It's coming from render layers. So this is actually, if you click on it, this is the final output. This is your 3D thing. Do you get that idea? That we are rendering this 3D object. That's why the output of the render layer goes to the compositor. The idea of compositor is that you're combining or compositing a lot of things to produce the final image. Okay. One quick example over here, let me show you. If you try to adjust the brightness and contrast of the final output, you can do so by inserting this thing right in here. Okay, so let me show you how this looks like. So this is the current output, and now that I have this bright or contrast in here, I can use that to control the brightness perhaps. See, I'm increasing the brightness, or I'm decreasing the contrast, or I'm increasing the contrast. It's all in my control. I'm not actually changing the 3D render. The 3D render is out here, but after I get that, this is a post-processing. Okay, and we are not new to this concept at all. You know a lot about photo editing, that you take a selfie shot and you take it through many steps of editing so that finally it doesn't even look like you. Okay. So these are things like you can change the brightness, contrast, and a lot of other things like that. So that's the idea, that we can get this 3D output right in here, take it through some post-processing steps, and finally produce something else. Now, why am I talking about this? Because our 3D render or whatever raw footage is already done, and we have to composite that. We have to edit that in some way so that we can remove the background and maybe insert some new objects. So let us try that out. Let's search for... Oh, sorry. Screencast display. Where is that? Not in here. Not in here either, because that's the view. Okay, so we got the screencast display on. What I'm going to do on this place, Shift A for adding, we're going to search for movie clip, because we're going to take that movie clip and bring it right in here. And this is where you have to open your movie clip first. Okay. Let us try this out. Our movie clip. We may have some movies in here, but I'm not going to use that. We will use our MM Match Move Test Wide, the one that I just downloaded, right? So that's the movie. If you select the very first frame, it will consider that to be a movie, and you can go forward with that. So let us open this clip, and you can see right away that we have the first image right in here. Okay. Now this is really very easy. If I don't want to see the 3D object, if I want to render the movie, what do? I take this image and put it over here as image. Okay, and if we hit F12, see, this is our output. It doesn't look right because the resolution of this footage is not the same as what we have. So if you look at each of these images, this is 1280 by 1080. Okay. If you look at the render, What setting do we have? 1920 by 1080. So they have to be aligned, right? 1280 by 1080. Now we have matched that. It still doesn't look right. That's not the first frame. Okay, this is the first frame. Like, part of it is cropped off in this view. That's because we have it set at 50% scale. So if you make it 100% and then render that, so that was the 3D object. Now we have this thing. And if you go to another frame, you can see that this is actually a movie, right? If you play through this, you do have a movie. Okay. Now the problem that we have right now, if you render this out, what do we see? We only see the girl, we don't see the cube, the 3D cube that we have. What if there was a way to combine both these things? That we can bring that 3D object into this 2D world. Can we do that? Okay. So if you understood the idea of the node editor, this is actually very much possible that you have an output over here, that's one frame, and we have another output, that's another frame. Somehow we need to combine these two together to produce a final output. That's the entire idea. Okay. And in the process we'll have to remove the green screen as well, and that's a different story. We'll see how we do that. Okay. So as I have shown you before, let us try this out with something really very silly. It's the mix node. Okay. The mix node will take two inputs, one from the image, the 3D image, and one from the movie clip. Okay. Right now it has factor 1. That means that it's going to take the total output from the bottom image from this movie. If I take this slider over here, you see that that's that. And if I take it halfway through, you can sort of see part of the cube and part of the girl as well. But it's not a really good solution. Right? It doesn't look real in any form. You don't see this solid object. It's like transparent, and this girl is also transparent. It's not a good effect at all. But it at least sets up the idea that somehow we can combine two pictures together to produce a final picture. At least that should be right. Okay. So what we're trying to do here, at least what I'm trying to do for now, is I will take that cube and try to place it over here so that it appears that the cube is sitting right in front of that girl. Okay. It may be sort of realistically, if that's possible. So in order to do that, we have to make some changes, and let me do that first. I don't want to have it rendered here. See, the problem that we have is that there is a background right here, a grayish background. That's why we cannot mix it properly. Excuse me, I got sore throat today. So the reason why we have this grayish background, because we're actually rendering a gray sky. If you uncheck that, if you go to the next tab, right after the camera tab, the render tab, if you go to this tab, this is one is for render layer. There is a part that says render the sky. If you uncheck that, what you have is a transparent background. Okay. Now if you try to combine these ideas, if you hit render, see how it works? Since the remaining part is transparent, it's not getting used, you only see part of the girl on top of the cube. That's definitely not the effect that we want, right? But that's due to this mix node. So the problem is really this mix node. This is not the way to go. What we should really use over here is called alpha over. So let me show you how I got here. Shift A, hit the search. Here you can type the name of the node and that would appear. So I just typed in ALP and then I saw alpha over. I knew that I'd have to use that. That's why I'm using it. So if you plug in these two things, as opposed to the mix node, and take the output over here, see, we don't see that yet. Now we do. Okay. What did I do in here? Let me repeat the entire process. First of all, if I take the image from the first picture and the frame from the second picture, I only get to see the second picture because it has a factor of 1. I could play with the factors, but that's not the solution because I see half of one thing and half of the other thing. That's not what I want. But what do I want? I want to use the alpha information form here. Alpha stands for transparency. Okay. Those of you who have some experience in image processing or some color model, they know that there is this color model called RGB, and this is very common knowledge, red, green, and blue. But also we talk about another color model, RGBA, red, green, and blue, and also alpha, that stands for transparency. Okay, that's how you have transparent effects. So we have some alpha information, as you can see over here. We have these transparent pixels. What do? We take that input and use that as factor. That lets us state which parts will be transparent and which parts will be solid. Or in other words, this factor let us control how much of the first image am I going to take and how much of the second image am I going to take. So if you use the alpha information, that helps you control that. You can tell that where that's transparent, I'm going to take the background. Where it's not transparent, I'm going to take the foreground object. This one being the foreground and this is the background. Okay. So in the transparent parts, I'm going to use this picture, and in the solid part, I'm going to use this one. Okay. So that's pretty much the idea. Now the problem is the order of the images, they do matter. So when you're doing this alpha over, the image that has transparency, the one that has to be the foreground, has to be the bottom image. See? The one with the foreground image has to be the bottom image. That's why you need to switch it over like this. Yeah. Which one? Yes, very much possible. Actually, that's going to happen over here. You see, we have a green screen. What we are trying to do is we are going to delete that green part. We will totally remove the green part and create a floor, create walls. Those are going to be 3D objects. So in other words, what we will have in this frame, we will delete the green part, so those will be transparent, and this image will also be transparent. Okay. We will introduce some more nodes that will take care of the other stuff. Okay. So yeah, it is possible, but you have to make sure that you have something in the background, otherwise it's going to get rendered as black. In the final render, I mean, unless you have transparent animation like animated GIFs, you cannot have transparent backgrounds. So is this thing clear? I mean, we can make it so that it appears that the cube is sitting on the floor. Right now it's like you're hovering over the ground. Okay. But it's totally in our control that we can control the placement of this cube and try to place it in a way that it looks quite natural. Like, let me try something else. Let us go back over here and I will insert a plane, and this one's not really helping. Let us go back into solid view. We can scale it up, and let's say we are trying to create a 3D floor like this, and if I hit render now, it doesn't really look natural. Okay. It's not in the right place, and also you don't want the floor and the cube on top of the girl. This girl is supposed to stand on the floor, not the other way around. Okay. What we will do, maybe not today, I don't know if I can cover that, we will build an entire 3D wall for this girl. We will render this scene out, and she will be here, standing right here, in that room. Although that room doesn't exist. Okay. We'll make it happen somehow. And that's the target. Okay. But is this thing clear so far? Whatever we have talked about. That how we can use the node editor to combine things. Okay. Alright, so if that's the case, let us look at some more fun stuff so that we can edit the original frame. Well, chroma, not the chroma key, let me check for this. Not the channel, forgot the name already. Yeah, got it. Alright, so I'm going to use something called keying. Okay, the name of this node is keying, and you can see the output already, right? Nothing has changed. But here's the fun part. We can use a key color to delete that color from this entire image. The key color that we have right now is in here. It's not really helping. Let us pick a different color and try to remove it from the as a whole. So I'm going to click over here. Here we got an eyedropper. I can use that eyedropper to click on somewhere else, and that's gone. Okay. So it's really very easy to use. Like, let's say you're standing in front of a solid background, and it has one solid color that's not present on your face or on the clothes that you're wearing. And if you click on that color, that will be gone, that will be transparent, and you can then insert a new background, like the picture of Everest, and say that you took this picture right in front of Everest. Okay. So you can introduce new backgrounds. I mean, that's what I wanted to say, not necessarily of Everest. Okay. Now, let us try to find some images from somewhere. Since we're talking about Everest. Yeah. Alright. That's not really a... Maybe this one. Alright. So, let me save this picture. Dokyo. Alright. Alright, so help me out if you understood this idea. Here we got an output from this keying, and you can see that most of it is now transparent. There are some issues here and there, and we'll look into that. Okay, that's a different story. So, if I wanted to insert that image of Everest, what should I do? Movie or clip, you're going to add that. And actually, I mean, this is for animation, but that's a still image, so we need some node that will let us get a image. Let us just see if I get that. Yeah, there is something for a still image. maybe that would be more useful. Let us open this image of Everest that I just downloaded somewhere. Yeah, got it. Alright, so that's the picture. I want that to be the background. How do I set that? Okay. So if I send that in here, you see the final output to be the image of Everest and this cube. That's not what I want, right? I want the output of the keying and this image combined together, sent to this alpha over. Is this thing clear? Okay, so box select, move it to the side. Well, that didn't work. What? Oh, I cannot move them at once for some weird reason. I don't know. Anyway, so I want to combine these two images together, right? And that's where I can use another alpha over. So take this alpha over. The output of this first image goes here, and this image goes here. The alpha information from this image I need that somewhere, but let me just plug that in. So I don't see that girl anymore. If I slide it over, then I see that girl, and now it's like a part of the girl and part of Everest. It's not really a cool view. Let's flip them over, and now that looks better. Okay. Although we see a lot of problems already that part of the girl is somewhat like transparent, and that's because when you take out the green color, it's also going from all pixels. Each of these pixels, they have red, green, and blue. So if you look at the picture, where do I have that? Yeah. See, even on the clothes right over here, since this is white, there is a bit of green reflection right in here. So when you take out the green part, these parts, they start getting more and more transparent. So if I zoom up some more, you see that that's quite apparent that this is really very greenish. So that's a color spill right there, and that's a bit of a problem. We'll see how we can address some of those. And if you look at pure white is made out of red, green, and blue. So if you take out green, that's already losing some color right from there. Okay. So there are issues that we need to address, but this is going somewhere, maybe in the right direction, maybe not. So this is where you'd have to play with the remaining factors. And for each and every settings, you have to tweak it right so that it corrects the whole thing. So here's this option for dispel balance. But if you use that, what this dispel does, it works with the color that you have picked. It knows that for any green screen removal, you're going to take out that thing, that effect. Because if you look at this picture, let me try to bring it over here, this girl has some reflection of green on her face as well. So it's actually spilling off on other parts. This color, because it's so dominant in that picture, it's spilling off in other places. So this is what you can use to dispel. If you take out that green color altogether, this turns reddish. But you don't want to go that far. It doesn't look natural anymore, so you can control this. It still doesn't solve the problem of transparency, and that's a difficult one to address really. The screen bounce is not going to help, but the click black. See, if I crank up the click black, the black pixels, you're cutting them off, so this needs to be lowered down so that this is less transparent. And this is the most important part, the clip white. If you lower that, okay, the white pixels, they were getting clipped off, they were being transparent. You don't want that, so you want to lower that to a sizable amount. And if you lower that, now this curve looks pretty solid on that background. Well, definitely the proportions are not right, the placement is not right, but we can adjust that. We can translate this girl a bit downwards so that she appears to be standing somewhere else, not on thin air like that. Okay. And we have some more issues that we see some cross marks. See, there is a cross mark right in here, and also up there and on the sky as well. So those marks are there. Okay, so that's another issue. We need to delete those. The reason why they're there is actually evident from here. The green screen had those marks in the first place. Okay, so we have to address those. Sorry about that. We don't have much time left, so I'm not going to introduce anything new over here. I mean, we already have a few new stuff. You know how to take in an image, how to go into the node editor and get into compositing and then mix and match a few things. So I'd like to answer two very important questions at this point. One is, why is this called a green screen? And why do we really use green? Because if you go and look for VFX for movies, if you go on YouTube, let's say for Avengers VFX, okay, you'd see that they're also shooting all these footages with a green screen in the background. Okay, so this is all fake, and you saw right there that we had a green screen, and they removed that in the final footage, right? So that's the most obvious question. Why green? And also, what are those red dots doing inside the green film? Okay. The same thing we have in this footage as well. And then we have a green screen, and along with that, we have some markers over here that are in in a slightly different color. And they're not red in here, but they're in a different color. Okay. So the reason why we have it in green screen is because most times we want to shoot images or footages of people. And in our skin tone, green is not that much present. So if you take out green, then we're not going to vanish. Okay. Also in terms of clothing, we don't wear that much green at all. Or if you do, then you pick some different color. If there's a lot of green in your scene, and you cannot use green screen as background, maybe use a blue screen. You don't use a red screen for shooting people because our skin tone has a lot of red in it. Even if you look at African people or Asian people, like yellow or dark brown, that still has a lot of red color in it. Okay. You can tone it down, you can make it darker, but if you pick a color like red, that's not going to help. Because what we're trying to do is we're trying to erase off or delete this color, replace that with something else. That's the first thing. The next thing is, why do we have the markers in here? These are for camera tracking. Right at the beginning of the class, I showed you some video footages, and one of those was of Seoul, Korea, where we had a sinkhole right in the middle of the road. Okay. Let me see if I still have that here. I could search for it. Sinkhole in Korea, right? So this is the output, and if you look at the tutorial where he covered this, how he made that thing. This is with camera tracking. And somewhere in this raw footage, you'd see, right in here, that there are a lot of white papers, I think, or some sort of markers that's left on the road. Why do we have them in place? So that we can track the movement of those that will tell us how the camera is moving. Because the road is not moving, and nothing else is moving. Maybe there are some cars that are moving over here, but if you leave some markers over here, and if you're moving with the camera yourself, you will see that these markers will move in a certain direction, or if you take your camera towards them, they will become bigger, right? So you know that there is a scaling effect. If you rotate the camera, you'll see there is a rotation effect right from the movement of these markers. So that's the answer of the second question, why we leave markers on the green screen so that we can track the movement of the camera. If you want to track the movement of the person or different parts of the person, that's very much doable. You need to use some markers on the different body parts. Okay. That's called motion tracking. Okay. And it is possible to do without motion tracking with markers. There are markerless motion tracking devices available right now. If you know of Kinect, Xbox Kinect, you can actually measure the depth. You can also track the movement of a person. You don't need any of this anymore. You don't have to have markers attached to your body to know what you're moving and how you're moving. Okay? So that's the different topic, but in most cases, if you're looking at the visual effects for movies, if you want to wear a Iron Man suit, you'll see that Iron Man is actually wearing a lot of markers. Okay. So we'll be talking about some of those things. So in today's class, what we did is very basic stuff. We downloaded this thing, and I'd ask you to do it by yourself when you go back home. Go to Hollywood Camera Work, go to this site. It has a lot of very nice footages. The reason I'm asking you to do it, because when you shoot these footages by yourself, maybe you're not going to get good quality footages. Maybe because of your shaky hands, maybe because you don't have a good phone or a good camera to start with. If you do, or if you're into photography, definitely shoot your own footages. I mean, why not, right? If you can do it.
Background
Yeah, if you want to remove the background, if you want to bring in some foreign objects, then yes, you need to invest in it as well. You need to buy a bed sheet, for example, with solid green color. Actually, bed sheet is going to be a bad investment. You can get professional green screen. You can buy them. I don't know exactly where you find that in Dhaka. If you can't, you'd have to make it by yourself. Maybe take some green art papers, that's actually a better solution. Put them in the background, shoot your footage, and then edit that. Okay. So what I'm asking you to do is that play with these footages because they're freely available right away. You can learn this stuff, but for assignment, maybe I'll ask you to shoot the footage by yourself and then do something interesting on it, combining all the ideas that we cover. Okay. It's going to be a fun little exercise for you. I mean, you can be anyone or do anything that you cannot do in real life. Okay. Alright, so that's the start. We learned how to remove the green screen, how to combine some foreign stuff that we built in Blender and then produce a final picture. Okay? Any question about any of these things? I'll show that to you. That's a very important question. I'll answer that, but not today. Raise the question again, please. In next class, I'll show you how you can remove that because this is not just about the black dots. If you look at this picture, we need to remove all these things. Right? All the lights up here and this part, they all need to be cropped off from this figure. So there's a very nice way to do it, and we'll cover that in our next class. Okay. Any other question from anything else? Yeah. That's another important thing. I posted this in our Google Classroom. You see, I'm having regular classes with this section, but the other section I forgot when I had the last class with them. For one reason or another, I'm being called for meetings on Thursdays and Saturdays, so I didn't really get to cover all these materials that I have covered over here in this section. And that's why, to keep a balance, I'm keeping it simple this time around. In previous semesters, I had like 4 or 5 topics from where I was asking questions in the lab exam, but this time around it's going to be very simple. You have only 2 things to practice: modeling, 3D modeling. You may be given a reference image, or I may just give you an idea of an image. Okay. I'm not going to ask you to do this, but let's say I've asked you to create a 3D model of a horse. Just as an example. I mean, that's a difficult one, right? But I've actually went with simpler, or maybe more difficult options, like I asked students to model a gecko. You really need to see a gecko to know what it really is. This is so common that we don't know about it. Gecko is this. Our household pets. Yes, that's what a gecko is. So yeah, I mean, you can use some reference images or whatever. I'll mention those words. What you can use and what you cannot use. And there can be questions from pre-frame animation. But the choice is yours, right? You don't have to do both of them. After getting the question, you can pick one or the other. Okay. All right. And I'll be asking the Viva questions based on whatever you're doing. You have to show me that you can work with Blender, you can do these things. Okay. This is not a written exam. This is a lab exam where you have to show your work. So start practicing. I may give you a 3D model that has multiple parts, these joint parts, and I may give you a video footage that I want this particular character to move like that. Okay. So for example, for your assignment, you did a moonwalk, right? Maybe I can give that same task in the exam. I'm not going to do it, like not give the same task, but something similar. Okay, I'll give you a reference video to watch, and then your character, whatever you have got, it has to move that way. That's the task of keyframe animation. Anything else? Yep. All right. Another important thing. How many of you don't have the student ID card? Like, I'm not asking you why you're not wearing it now. I should be asking that, but I'm not asking this. Do you have it on you or at home? If you don't have it at home even, that's a problem, because in the exam hall it will be really very strict this time for the final exam. You have to wear your ID card there. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's a good practice to wear that while you're here as well. Okay, let me stop recording.